The moment Ethan Caldwell closed his eyes, he thought he was in control. But within minutes, something so unexpected unfolded that it shook him to his core. He had built his life on precision, on reading people, on never being fooled. A billionaire CEO at just 38, Ethan trusted numbers more than emotions, contracts more than promises. But lately, something had been bothering him. A quiet, persistent thought about the shy young maid who had been working in his mansion for just 3 weeks. Her name was Grace Walker. She barely spoke, avoided eye contact, and moved like she was afraid of being noticed. And that somehow made Ethan suspicious. So that evening, in his vast, silent bedroom overlooking the glittering skyline of Chicago, Ethan decided to test her. If you believe that kindness still exists in this world, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the smallest moments reveal the biggest truths. Ethan lay still on his bed, his breathing slow and steady, pretending to be asleep. The golden light from the bedside lamp cast long shadows across the marble floor. He had instructed the staff to let Grace clean his room that night, knowing she would think he was resting. It was a simple plan. He wanted to see who she really was when she thought no one was watching. Minutes passed. Then, softly, the door creaked open. Grace stepped in quietly, her movements hesitant, almost fragile. She was young, perhaps 24, with tired eyes that seemed older than her years. Her hands were rough from work, her clothes simple and neat. She paused near the door, glancing at Ethan's still figure as if making sure she wouldn't disturb him. Ethan remained perfectly still, every sense alert. Grace began her work slowly, carefully dusting surfaces, organizing items, making sure everything was perfect. There was something different about the way she worked, not mechanical, not rushed like the others. It felt thoughtful, gentle. Then something unexpected happened. As she approached the bedside table, her eyes fell on a photograph. Ethan with his late mother. It was the only personal item he kept visible. Grace froze. She picked up the frame, her fingers trembling slightly. For a long moment she just stared at it. And then, to Ethan's shock, her expression softened, her eyes filling with tears. She placed the photo back gently, almost reverently, and whispered something so faint he could barely hear it. But he caught enough, a quiet apology, and a prayer. Ethan's heart skipped. Grace stepped back and looked at him. Really looked at him this time. Her gaze wasn't curious or intrusive. It was filled with something he hadn't felt in years. Compassion. Then, slowly, she did something that made Ethan freeze completely. She walked to the closet, took out a folded blanket, and carefully draped it over him, adjusting it so he wouldn't feel cold. Her touch was light, almost hesitant, as if she was afraid to cross a boundary. Yet there was care in every movement. Ethan had staff for years. None of them had ever done something like that. But Grace wasn't finished. She sat down quietly on the edge of a chair nearby, her hands clasped together. Her lips moved silently as she prayed, not for herself, but for him, for his health, for his peace, for the loneliness she somehow sensed beneath his powerful exterior. And in that moment, something inside Ethan cracked. All his life, people had approached him for money, for status, for advantage. Every gesture came with a hidden intention. But this was different. This was pure, unseen, unasked for. Grace stood up after a moment, wiping her eyes quickly as if ashamed of her own emotions. She resumed her work, finishing the cleaning with the same quiet dedication. Before leaving, she took one last look at Ethan, her face filled with a mix of sadness and silent hope, and then she left. The door closed softly behind her. Ethan opened his eyes, but he didn't move. He couldn't. His chest felt tight, his thoughts tangled in a way he wasn't used to. For the first time in years, he felt small. Not in power, but in understanding. He had tried to test her, to confirm his suspicion. Instead, she had revealed something about him. The next morning, everything changed. Ethan called Grace into his office. She walked in nervously, her eyes lowered, clearly expecting criticism or dismissal. But Ethan didn't look at her the same way anymore. He saw her, not just as a maid, not as a background presence, but as a person who carried quiet strength, unseen kindness, and a heart that asked for nothing in return. Without revealing his test, Ethan began asking about her life. Slowly, gently, he learned about her struggles, how she had taken this job to support her younger brother, how she worked long hours without complaint, how she believed that even small acts of kindness mattered, even if no one noticed. Ethan listened, truly listened, and for the first time in a long while he felt something shift inside him, not as a CEO but as a human being. In the weeks that followed, Ethan didn't just reward Grace financially. He changed the environment of his entire household. He ensured every worker was treated with dignity. He created opportunities for education and growth, and most importantly, he became more present, more aware of the people around him. Grace never knew about that night. She never knew she had been watched, tested. But her quiet act had transformed a man who thought he had already seen everything. Before this story ends, here's a special request. Comment below with the word kindness if you believe small actions can change big hearts. Your voice matters more than you think. And if this story touched your heart even a little, don't just scroll away. Like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that goodness still exists, and subscribe for more stories that inspire and heal. Because sometimes the greatest tests aren't the ones we give others. They're the ones life gives us, when we least expect it,